So something I wanted to do in Forza Horizon 6 as soon as I saw the autumn season come was to simply jump on Forza Horizon 4, which obviously came out in 2018, and kind of compare and talk about the differences I saw in the autumn season. Now, the first thing I have to say though is this took a little while to do because I simply had to wait for autumn to show up in FH4. Luckily, when I did it in Forza Horizon 6, I believe 4 is like a week behind or something in the seasons on that game, so I waited, and I was able to drive around the maps and check out the autumn season in each one. Now, they did end up saying in that reveal thing that the autumn season in Forza Horizon 6 is obviously better than it was in 4 because of the coloring and all of that stuff there. Now, I will admit though, driving around on 6 for a little bit in the autumn season, guys, it is honestly really beautiful. I do love how colorful the trees are everywhere. There's obviously a lot more trees that are colored in orange or red. You will see the leaves on the ground and all that, which by the way, that's also in Forza Horizon 4. The one thing I noticed when comparing both of these, though, is some of the roads in 6 obviously give you a really good atmosphere with how they are set up with all the trees being orange, red, and just a really cool looking fall color. And depending on where you live, you might not fully get a fall type of feeling, so yeah, at least that's kind of a nice change. But the thing is, though, when I booted up Forza Horizon 4 and jumped on it, I'm like, okay, well, let's go check out Autumn in this game. And the one thing that kind of stood out to me, guys, I'm going to be real, this game has more of the leaves on the ground and parts of the grass and different things. You could see more of the autumn thing in some areas of the map, at least when I was driving on it. Obviously, all the trees and all that are still orange, yellow, and of course red in a lot of areas. But I would say on FH6, there is probably more trees, at least more colored ones anyway, than there were in FH4. So that's probably the biggest thing that they focused on. I gotta say though, it seems like FH4 really took it like to a different level in a way that they kind of added more of the leaves on the ground and different things around the map, which is something I've really noticed. And I kind of feel like a lot of players might end up thinking about this as well. But I'm curious though, if you guys were to boot up Forza Horizon 6, then jump on 4, and if you can do that, I would recommend doing that. Of course, now Autumn's obviously not in 4 or 6, so that's probably going to be fairly difficult. But when it is a thing though, you could jump on and check out both. And I will say, playing both guys, I think each game is great, but I gotta say though, one thing that kind of surprised me is jumping on each game really does give you a different atmosphere when you are playing it, which is kind of insane. Now, obviously, they are different games. we know that, right? They're different games. One game's from 2018. The other game is obviously barely a month or so old now, so it is probably a little different there. Obviously, one game's older, but I gotta admit, though, for 2018, I do feel like they kind of nailed how Autumn looks in this game. One road in particular I loved, guys. There was literally leaves all over the road and going through it, which also you can do this on 6, by the way, not saying you can't. But you could drive over the leaves and like do burnouts and spit the leaves into the air, which I thought was pretty cool. Again, the game is obviously older. I did notice, though, a lot of bushes and different things on FH4, though, compared to 6. Really does have that really cool autumn type of color to it, which is something I wasn't noticing as much. And when I was jumping on FH4, for example, right now, guys, you will notice in the Caterham here, I believe this is the Forza edition, I don't even know where I got it from, but you will notice in this one part here around this corner, I'll show another clip of this with a different car, though. I love how the entire part of the grass is covered in autumn leaves and different things, because it's obviously showing that as the trees will lose their leaves. I do like that detail in this game a lot more. I wasn't noticing it as much in FH6 in certain areas, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing or it's like broken or makes the entire season, terrible, but I was noticing driving around in FH6 though that I wasn't really seeing as much of that. Like, I think the biggest thing they focused on in FH6, at least from what I noticed, is some of the bushes are obviously an autumn type of color, but they really focus on the trees in a lot of areas and making more trees the autumn color. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. I like that, but I also kind of like when you could see a bunch of leaves all over the ground. Now, again, there is some areas on FH6 that do have this. I want to point that out. But it's not nearly as often as I noticed it on FH4 when driving around the map and checking out different areas. I do love the coloring of the trees in Forza Horizon 6, okay? It's obviously really nice. Some of the roads are absolutely beautiful when you are driving around them in that. And I think that's obviously, a good thing because we want to have good roads to drive on that actually give you an atmosphere when the season changes and it doesn't feel like absolutely nothing in a way, because if it did feel like that, then I kind of think most players would be like, I don't really care. It doesn't really change much. But at least some roads do have the atmosphere of autumn that really give it to you. Like, oh yeah, we're in a different season right now. and it's not going down a road and going, are we in autumn? Are we in spring? We in summer? Which one is it, bro? Because honestly, from this area, I cannot even tell. And I do kind of like in FH6 how when you guys are driving around, you will see like leaves in the wind and stuff like that, and they are obviously autumn colored. So that is very cool. I like little details like that as well. What kind of blows me away, though, is the fact that Forza Horizon 4 is around 8 years old, and that game's actually having the look that it does and what it was able to do back then. I mean, I think it's kind of impressive. I do know a lot of people still love FH4. Some even say that's their favorite Forza game ever. And you know what? In some ways, I can kind of see it because the seasons in that game really were insane, guys. And funny part is, I am also planning a winter comparison video where I talk about some stuff. And I was mind blown with how different each game was with winter. I'm not even going to lie there. Both games look good, but to me, there's obviously a clear winner. So stay tuned for that one. But the biggest thing I would say with the autumn season or seasons in general is obviously making the maps feel different, making the overall atmosphere something that you probably want to explore and go, okay, well, we're in autumn now. I can't wait to go to some of my favorite roads, right? That is probably something players would look forward to, seeing some things like that. I mean, when I was playing Forza Horizon 4, man, I was genuinely surprised with how great this actually looked, and a lot of different roads around the map. There's a lot of fun roads you can explore, and of course, on top of it, you can also go off-roading in different areas. When I was off-roading in the forest, dude, I'm not even going to lie, guys. I'm actually just going to say it. FH4 was better in the autumn when off-roading in different areas of the forest than it was in FH6, okay? This is something I have to admit. I played both games back-to-back when I could for hours on end in the autumn seasons to check out different things. The amount of leaves on the ground in certain areas and the amount of just, like, colored bushes and trees everywhere. The cool part is in the forests and all that, you might not see the full-on autumn trees everywhere, but you will notice it on the ground as there's leaves everywhere, there's bushes that are autumn, and that's something I really loved about it. I'm like, dude, this is legit so much better. Like, guys, right now I'm going to show you a side-by-side. I was driving the Mercedes Top Gear, okay, and I was driving through the forest. Check out this in FH4. Then I'm also going to throw up this and Forza Horizon 6 when I was driving the Tacoma in a similar off-road area, at least, you know, one that I could, you know, find that's off-roady. But you know what, though? I was kind of amazed because I jumped on FH6 and I was like, wait. A lot of the dirt roads and stuff in 4 were honestly much better. Now, again, I'm not saying it's terrible, but I gotta admit, guys, Forza Horizon 4 did this a little better in some areas. Like, we all do know they did talk about the autumn scene being way more colorful, which it is. And again, off-roading areas, you guys will see some of the leaves on the ground in the Tacoma where I am driving right now. You will get that gist of it, that there's a little bit of leaves on the ground. You're in autumn. You'll see the orange trees in the forest and different things, right? You'll see some of it on the ground in some parts of the forest. It's there, but I feel like FH4 really captured that overall atmosphere, showing you that it's in a different part of a season, which I gotta admit is honestly pretty dang amazing but impressive. And it also kind of showed me why, when going back and forth, that a lot of players did kind of like FH4 a little bit more when it comes to that, at least, only because they probably enjoyed how that made them feel. Now, we all do know in some areas of FH6, I would say, is a lot better than others. Obviously, some roads have a lot of leaves on the ground. Some roads have a lot of colored trees everywhere. And I think they look pretty dang good, and I was kind of driving around going, okay, no, I like this area. Okay, we got some trees. And that was kind of the thing I noticed in the reveal a while back when they were showing the game. They said how the autumn season in this game is going to be way more colorful than FH4. And you know what? In ways, it definitely is with the trees. But I also noticed they use the colorful thing in different areas of FH4 compared to 6. So I kind of feel like playing both games back to back. And again, I will show you guys side-by-side comparisons on this in the background so you can check it out. That way you can kind of see the differences of some roads and all that and how the trees are. Because to be honest, I kind of think in ways FH4 kind of takes the crown for me, man. I'm not going to lie, guys. I know this might sound a little bit crazy, but I also feel like at the moment, a lot of players might agree that FH4 kind of might take the crown in autumn still, even today. And I was a newer player in FH4, so this was something I thought about very quick. I'm like, wait, we got the autumn in FH6, so let me play that a little bit. Let me drive around. Let me go on FH4, and let me check it out on there and see how it is. And I do feel like each game does capture things pretty dang well in the season part of it. I think they're good, but I can also see why a lot of players still kind of preferred the Forza Horizon 4 autumn season, as they didn't really focus on making every single tree yellow, red, and orange. Instead, they kind of focused on having bushes, leaves everywhere. Some of the ground is going to be full orange or look like you're obviously in the autumn season compared to every single tree being colored. Then obviously the trees in some areas are still colored, and depending on the tree, there'll be a lot of leaves on the ground there or something like that. And I kind of like that. But you all know what's kind of wild, though, is something I could not get out of my head is playing both games back and forth. It's kind of wild seeing how a game will end up, like, increasing or changing in the series that it's in. Obviously, like, we all do know this is the sixth game in the Forza Horizon series. It's obviously not the first one. It's kind of insane going back and playing 4 and then jumping on 6 and just kind of analyzing things. That was the first game back then to have seasons like that, and it kind of set it a different type of thing for racing games because no racing game did anything like that where the whole map changed. And now, obviously, FH6 did it. And I also kind of feel like it did a good job, not going to lie there. I think the seasons are very good looking in this game. One road I really do like is in the Aston Martin here, guys. It's absolutely beautiful. You'll even find leaves on the ground in some areas here, which, you know, is similar to Forza Horizon 4, where you'll find, like, some of the sides covered in the autumn leaves and all that. You'll see a lot of the beautiful trees. Some of them cover the road, and then it's all over the road with leaves. And then the side of the road is also covered in leaves. Again, I mean, it looks really good. I'm glad they did put this in some areas in 6 because I was kind of worried about that. And also, after playing Forza Horizon 4, though, I feel like more roads had some of these details compared to FH6, which I don't know if that's necessarily a terrible thing, but I kind of wonder how players will take this if they were to jump on one game, then jump onto the other one, and really compare them against each other again to see which roads or, you know, what was different compared to each game. Because one game is 8 years ago, and now we're in this one right now in 2026. So I'm kind of interested, guys. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Not gonna lie, I could keep yapping about this as I really do love the seasonal changes in 6 and 4. That was one of the things that kind of sucked me into FH4 for a while, was the seasons. I absolutely loved it and still do, and I'm glad they did end up taking this approach with FH6. But that's one thing I gotta ask y'all to end this off with. Do you guys kind of wish they would have copied a little more of FH4's autumn season compared to 6? And which game's autumn season did you like more? And as I did say earlier, stay tuned, because I'm also going to talk about winter.